Hi, everybody, and welcome to the KubeStellar Community Meeting for Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. Welcome, everybody. Meeting's being recorded. If you don't want to be recorded, either visually or in Audible, you should either disconnect from the meeting now or turn off your audio or video. If you're looking to join us, please, you can get automatic calendar invites by going to kubestellar.io/join us, either as one word or join_us, as I'm highlighting here. That'll set up regularly recurring meeting invitations coming to your calendar, and it'll also give you access to this box note to edit. So we are a proud CNCF sandbox project, and as such, we abide by a contributor code of conduct. I'll go ahead and read it now. As contributors and maintainers in the CNCF community and in the interest of fostering an open and welcoming community, we pledge to respect all people who contribute through reporting issues, posting feature requests, updating documentation, submitting pull requests or patches, and other activities. We are committed to making participation in the CNCF community a harassment-free experience for everyone, regardless of level of experience, gender, identity and expression, sexual orientation, disability, personal appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, age, religion, or nationality. Basically, what that means is just please everybody be nice to each other. Make the world a better place. Okay, welcome everybody. If you're here and you'd like to get on the agenda, or if you're here and you just want to record your attendance, please do so at this location. Today we have a couple of items on the agenda related to our latest turn of the crank, changes in the architecture and how they're becoming reality in our releases, as well as some updates on some talks that are coming up in the future for our project, and some updates on community activity. Let's see, let's get started. So changes to KubeStellar architecture. So I think there's a couple of release candidates coming up. So I saw Ezra was on the call. Ezra, do you want to give us an update as to where we are?
I just want first to make a quick fix here. We actually made a naming change. Up to now, we have a feature release on end of March, and up to now we refer to that as 0.20. That's no longer the case. Yeah, that's exactly your point. At this point, let's remove the version number and just we are calling it the end of March release. At this point, do not have the version number. The release candidate 2 is 0.20.0. This one, yes. And we can remove the release candidate. It's just feature incomplete release. Yeah. And we can discuss here whether the next one, the switching to pluggable transport, it can be either 0.20.1 or 0.21.0. I think that Mike was in favor of 0.21 because it's a little bit a bigger change, but I'm fine with whatever we decide. So currently it's 21. Yeah, exactly. That's the general statement of the naming.
As I think it should be 0.21 because it is not like a patch, right? Usually you do like a patch release, you do a release and then you do a patch release when there is some bug or stuff. It's not just a bug.
We agree.
Yeah.
We agree. So Andy, it can be 0.21.0. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and the target here is end of February, correct?
Got it.
And that's it. I think that Paulo, you can update us on the 0.20. I can give quick update on the 0.21.
Yeah, sure. On the 0.20, I think we are very close to get our release out. We still are ironing some little wrinkles. We did 2 RCs, RC1, RC2. We run all the testing. We have now some automated testing also for the release, in addition to the testing we can do on the code in main. And we also did some manual testing, like testing on OpenShift. That it is something right now we don't have really automation for that. And we are pretty confident that we should be able to close on 0.20.0 hopefully by end of today. And I think with some of the contributors also here are probably going to do some more testing. But I think we're really close to get the 0.20 out probably today.
Thank you. 0.21, Ezra?
0.21, the main purpose here is to switch to our new pluggable transport. It will be OCM pluggable transport. So in a sense, it's the same transport in both 20 and 21. But here is a completely new mechanism which allows pluggable transport. The requirement for that, and this is again incomplete feature release because it's not in kind of a full-blown feature release. And the main requirement for that is first switching to this new pluggable transport and new placement. Second, we sure want to pass all the integration and unit tests and current CICD test, and all our documents. We are updating also all the architecture documents, example documents, and everything to reflect the new architecture. So 0.21.0 should be kind of self-contained in a sense that everything there should reflect the actual code that is there, and that's it. Of course, there will be still open issues and open bugs that will be fixed towards the main release on end of March.
Great. Very good. All right, and so how does that lead up to the end of March? So 0.20, so 0.21 is the end of this month. So what's in the release for the end of March? What's our goals there?
So the goal is basically to hardening the release, meaning that there are user exposed not user exposed, but the API and the user experience shouldn't be changed. This will be the same as 0.21. That's at least the vision. And there shouldn't be any change in the API in any user experience. However, there are kind of internal new features, better documentation, much better testing, and one, for example, major item is the kind of not redesign, but rebuild of our KubeStellar.io documentation to reflect this new architecture, new stuff, and all of that. All of that will take place on the end of March release. And for the end of March, all major bugs, issues, and so on should be resolved.
Okay, what are the new features? I heard you say something about new features for end of March.
Yeah, we need to go. I'm not sure if it's features. It's more of a kind of issues request. For example, I can touch couple, but we can people that are interested can just go. I will change the label, but there is a special label for the end of March release. We will also add it to the milestone of end of March, so you can search by that. And you can go through the items. But for example, one item is we want to be able to support jobs in KubeFlex's denatured space support jobs and so on. There are several others there. Not many. Most of that are kind of gaps in things that we should support and we kind of have support, but there aren't so many new features. It's mainly kind of many of the items related to some improvements in the controller implementation, optimization on the placement, and items like that.
Okay. I heard you've referred to placement a few times. Did that change the binding, or am I dreaming that up?
Oh, you are absolutely correct. Good for
Okay.
correct me. Yes, yes, yes. I'm talking
Okay.
about by the way, that's this is already included in 0.20, the change of naming, and the usage of that is in 0.21. So it's in binding and I think it's binding and binding decision, right? I don't recall what are the two things.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely correct, Andy. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. Anything else, Ezra?
This item that you are just pointing on, it should, we are working on that as part of 0.21 release, at least in terms of the documents. You can move it into the 21. We need to address, at least in the documents, the issue of the kind of cyclic dependency between KubeStellar and the pluggable transport. The cyclic dependency is coming from the fact that the pluggable transport interacts with KubeStellar directly, so there is a dependency. However, in the KubeStellar documentation and instruction, we refer to the pluggable transport. So it's not cyclic dependency in terms of code dependency. It's only one direction on the code, but it's in documentation on the other side. So we need to resolve it. It impacts, for example, our release process, right? When we change releases and so on.
Okay.
So yeah.
And there was also another one identified with OCM, cross repo.
I'm not sure. There is also the OSM status add-on,
Right.
and there is dependency there. I'm not sure that we have dependency on OCM because OCM is out of our hands. So OCM certainly is not referring KubeStellar.
Okay. So is there no cross repo dependency on this?
Oh,
This
there
is,
is,
I recorded this
sorry,
earlier in the week, so yeah.
sorry, there is cross repo dependency. There is no cyclic dependency. But
Okay.
that's a regular dependency. We depend on libraries and stuff on OCM. This is no different than we are depending on Kubernetes or something like that, right? I think I want to point out that we have a very good
OCM
document
what?
that might.
There's OCM status add-on is ours. OCM transport plugin is ours. The rest of OCM is not ours. So it have to be a little more detailed.
We know that. I was referring exactly to the fact that OCM status add-on and the OCM transport and all of that, of course, it's not ours, and of course, it's ours, and there might be even cyclic dependency. I was talking about the OCM repository, the OCM itself. I want to point out that we have a packaging document that Mike created that is illustrating or listing all the dependency and in cross repo dependencies and so on. So people are welcome to go, and I think everything is illustrated there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
It's called, I think, packaging.md or something like that.
Okay. All right. So in my work and doing a lot of the automation that I've been working on, I've noticed something just on the tail end of your discussion here. Using something like unjoin from clusteradm yields a message exactly this. Still exists, well, this is blah, 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 blah. These objects still exist on the managed cluster. You should manually clean them. Uninstall cluster will cause those works out of control. So I wanted to make just a general statement here is that if you haven't done so already, it might be worth a look to through the open source for OCM and the clusteradm to see if there's any error messages that can be, I don't know, made more natively English. So there are some grammatical issues and stuff that we could probably help them clean up. Just FYI. All right. Okay. Testing. Does anybody want to talk a little bit about how testing's been working out? I know there was some changes and some. Now there's a PR can trigger a full test, etc. Does anybody have any updates or comments on that?
I can give two updates.
Okay.
One is I've generalized the E2E testing so that it can test either the local copy of the repo or the release that is mentioned in the local copy of the repo. And that's a change in both our script and in our GitHub workflows. And the other thing is I've introduced an integration test for the binding controller that's currently still in a PR, not merged. But that's an interesting bit of progress, and it's turning up bugs in the binding controller.
Okay.
Yeah, which reminds me that some of the work you asked before, Andy, about the end of merge. So one major item is increase our coverage of unit tests. Currently, we have only few unit tests, and we really need to increase that. So this is also work that needs to be done.
I would just say that for some of it, you know, in some sense, it's nice to have complete coverage in unit tests, but what's really required is complete coverage in end-to-end tests. And I think the integration test, for example, that I've done for the matching, I think that really can cover. I don't think we need to, I don't see how really easily and with good quality to duplicate its functionality in unit tests. So for the testing of the matching that's done in integration test, I don't think we need to duplicate that in integration test. Sorry, in unit test.
I agree. Wherever you, I'm not sure it's unique, but it's a special situation in which a lot of our code or some of the controllers are interacting with multiple API servers and multiple kind of clusters, and it's sometimes tricky and basically even not clear what exactly a unit test in this scenario can achieve, and it's kind of hard because not all the other component has fakes and be able to use fake servers and so on.
Yeah,
So
can
it's
someone
always
explain to me what that fake discovery was? I don't know. I don't understand what that is.
Sure. So in Kubernetes, there are these client things, generally called client sets. And there's the regular ones where you make them from a REST config, and then there are fake ones that implement the same interface that are typically used in unit tests. And the interface that we're talking about includes what's called discovery, which is introspecting on the API. So it's discovering what API, what resources are defined, what are the object types, in other words. And there are a few different kinds of discovery, a few different methods or functions that can be called to do discovery. And the fakes implement one of them and return nothing by just hard-coded code.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, nil, yeah.
And the bad news is that our binding controller uses the kind of discovery that the fakes return nothing for. So that's showstopper there. We could either try to use better fakes or change our controller to use the kind that's already faked. But right now, we need to do either one or of both of those in order to make progress in using fakes. Not impossible, but it's work. And given that we have integration testing covering the same questions, I'm satisfied with that.
Usually, I think it goes in stages, you know, because unit tests should be much faster. faster, and they should cost less because you don't need to bring up actual server and so on. I think again they have value. I am not sure that at this point there is a dramatic change in both cases. Maybe in time consuming between the integration test and the unit test. E2E test is a different story. Once again, we are running on kind and so on, but in practice, when we go to real clusters and fully fledged kind of environment, obviously you don't want to run such tests on each and every PR, right? For example, so we need to look into that. But currently, it's basically, as Mike mentioned, we just need the coverage. If we get it from the integration test, that's fine as well.
Okay.
The integration testing work that I've done includes being able to run in a GitHub workflow.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Okay. All right. How about I dare I say decoupling of KubeFlex and KubeStellar? Anybody want to take that?
Yeah, we postponed this a little bit because we need to have some deeper discussion on that. Roughly speaking, there are few levels of coupling today, and this was done mainly to have a very kind of user-friendly and very kind of not complicated interface. So for example, in a single command through KubeFlex, you can run KubeStellar without the need, for example, to specify a lot of parameters, kubeconfigs, and so on. The fact is that underneath, behind the scenes, it interacts. For example, today, KubeStellar interacts with KubeFlex to fetch the details about the spaces, about WDS, about the IMBS, and all of that. So there is coupling. It can be removed. The question is more of a discussion. We need to decide why we should do that, what is the use case that requires such decoupling, and so on. Again, there are technical details. For example, not decoupling, some additional possibility to run KubeStellar are needed, for example, for testing. The ability to specify the actual kube config instead just the name of the context. But this doesn't mean that we necessarily need to remove the ability to use the coupling mode, right? So it's not decoupling, it just adding also some methods that do not depend on KubeFlex. This is one item, and the other one is we really need to decide, because for example, I'll give one major example. Today, KubeFlex, in addition to manage the control planes, okay, the spaces, it also supply us with the denatured space, the Kubernetes denatured space. That this is the base. Currently, it's the basis for the whole KubeStellar, right? The fact that we have denatured KubeStellar. Currently, we do not have any other provider for such denature. We do not support any other provider for such denature. So in a sense, it's mandatory for us to use KubeFlex at this point, right? It's the only provider for that space.
No.
So that means that this whole discussion of how can we run without KubeFlex and so on, we kind of postponed it. We need to do that in the coming few weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Paolo, feel free to
I
jump
disagree.
in if you want to.
Yeah, I disagree. About denaturing. You have to stop trying to understand it as a all or nothing or so simple black and white thing. Denaturing is a relative matter. A regular kube cluster is already denatured with regard to app wrappers, for example. So the basis of KubeStellar is that we don't require the wrapping in the interface. An ordinary kube cluster can already take app wrappers that are not further wrapped.
Right. So thank you for the clarification. When I said KubeFlex is the only provider currently supplies with denature space, we meant denature for native Kubernetes objects like pod and deployments and so on. So if we want to support pods and deployments without wrapping, we must use KubeFlex, and this is one of our major use cases today. So that's the
Yeah, just to add to that, I think right now, at least, that is sort of our distinctive feature compared to other projects in this space, that essentially you can just apply, as you said, native workload objects, and we take care of the rest through policy, etc.
So you know, so
my view, my view is that yes, the distinctive feature is that we don't require additional wrapping in the interface. And again, I think we just have to think of it, stop thinking of it as all or nothing thing. It's sort of a relative to some baseline or threshold. So another thing we've been discovering, we're coming to realize, you know, even the denatured spaces that KubeFlex provides with the so-called KAS type of control plane, they're also not fully denatured. And if you look in our 0.14 design, you see a careful discussion of, in fact, that, which we seem to have forgotten about. But it's always the case that denaturing is relative to some baseline. And we're also coming to realize that some of the behavior is built into the API server that's never going to be denatured. We have to take care of it in a different way. I wouldn't call it denaturing. I would call it maybe filtering or transformation in distribution.
So just to clarify, this whole discussion was not about denaturing, and we shouldn't go into that. The discussion was about the question that Andy asked about decoupling of or the use case that require us to work with, to have KubeStellar without KubeFlex. And my only point was that at this point we delayed the discussion because in any case for the coming few months we are going to use KubeFlex. This is mandatory for us. That was the only point. I wasn't talking whether we should add additional work of denaturing into KubeStellar. It might be whether we should add the future decoupling completely. I was just saying that this discussion of decoupling is currently not very urgent, and we postponed it for a few weeks.
My last remark was about Paulo's remark about what's the value or point of the project. And I'm just saying the value or point, I think, has to take the relative nature of denaturing into account.
I agree.
Okay.
As you can see, Andy, we have a lot to discuss.
Yeah,
around
sounds
this
like you're in
area.
fervent agreement.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, but we also have a lot to discuss here, and this will be just to clarify in terms of releases. All this discussion is targeting post end of March release, so it will not impact anything in the end of March release.
Yeah, and a reminder to the community that are watching this, these discussions take place regularly in our Slack channel. If you want to get there, it's kubestellar.io/Slack, and also in our GitHub. It's in issues and PRs. So get active, get involved, talk it up, get in the conversation.
And obviously, when the time comes and we actually reach this area, we'll bring it up in the community call, right, and discuss it over here.
Yeah, and major decisions you'll probably, I mean, the rest of the community has the option to weigh in there too. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. All right, we'll move on to some activity highlights. So, Braulio, anything more you want to add about the EU poster session for KubeCon?
So yeah, have been working with Glow on the poster. We have a current draft that we are revising. So yeah, our poster has been going well, and tomorrow I have a meeting with the Glow and the Cornell team. Yeah, where we're gonna discuss the next revision for the poster.
Okay. Thank you, Braulio. Our Sandbox Project Pavilion booth will be, I just got slotted for that. We got a pretty good time. It'll be coincidental. I believe, Braulio, when is yours? 18 to 20 CET?
Yes.
I think, yeah. Okay, so we'll be overlapping slightly. That'd be great. So yeah, we're going to be from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock in CET. So if you're in Paris and you're at the Paris Expo and you're at KubeCon EU, come visit Braulio and Glar in the poster session, or come visit me at the Sandbox Project Pavilion. Okay, our lightning talk that I also submitted for KubeStellar has been waitlisted. Maybe we'll find out more about that in the weeks ahead. GitOpsCon submitted a talk there. That talk is waitlisted also, so we have no commitment there yet. And let's see, any update on other things that are going on in the community? I know we were in the process of converting placement to binding policy and placement decisions to binding. Did that work complete? I think June did some of that.
Yes, the last release, the new release, the 0.20, the current also RC1, RC2, they are already based on that renaming.
Okay, so this is in 0. Okay. And how about control KubeStellar IO? That's also there?
Yes.
Okay. Great. All right. Anything new on pluggable transport? I think we lost Ezra. Okay, I know there'll be more discussion on that coming up ahead. And anything else on OCM transport plugin? I think that's also Ezra's backyard. Okay. All right. Is there anything anybody else would like to bring up on this call to discuss? I'll open it to the floor.
For the testing part, we also added the end-to-end test, initial set of end-to-end test to the OCM status plugin repository.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one little thing to add.
Thank you. Okay, good. Anybody else with anything else they'd like to add or talk about?
Yeah, just one sort of just wanted to add something about we do have this issue we've been discussing for a while about sort of cyclic dependency when we use the post-create hooks in kubeflex, right, for installing things like the OCM and also the KubeStellar controller. Because right now we don't have an easy way to sort of pass parameters and things like that. For example, the particular release of KubeStellar. So one thing I was working on is the ability to, when we install a post-create hook in kubeflex, to pass also arbitrary parameters using a style syntax very close to actually pretty much the same as when you use Helm. So you have the ability to do things like kubeflex, create control plane, pass the plugin name, the post-create hook name, and also use something like -- set, and then variables that will be injected in the template of the OCM. So of the post-create hook. So this allows us to now have a generic template, and you can instantiate things like, for example, the particular release version at runtime. So hopefully this will get out of some of this issue we're having with the cyclic dependency the way we have right now.
It can move it, but it won't remove it because the instructions still have to say what values to pass.
Yeah, but at least will be only the instructions, not in the code. For the instruction, I guess that's a general issue, I guess, when you have instructions to say use this release. I guess we have to figure out what how we say, like, use the latest release or something, or the stable release or something like that.
Dependencies.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I saw that. Yeah, I saw that last night go across. I said, oh, it's strikingly familiar to home.
Yeah.
Okay. Just another side note. I've been working with a number of different universities. The potential for interns for open source. There's quite a few programs out there in different universities that offer this type of exchange or currency, if you will, for experience in the open source, working with specific technologies and tools, specifically things like Git and Go and Kubernetes, of course, and in exchange for capstone credit, for the student to receive graduate credits and to be able to receive a degree. There are a lot of these types of programs take place all throughout the year, different semesters, whether they're broken down fall and spring or fall, summer, spring. Even there was a winter semesters that sometimes offered. So I've got irons in the fire at a select set of universities to see if there's a possibility of bringing some folks on here in the summer, and there'll be activities around that. Just should keep in mind, I'm just a reminder to the community and the collaborators, contributors here, that once, we are made aware of the possibility that these folks could join, we want to make good use of their time. Some will be able to devote 20 hours a week. Others may be able to give us more, but that seems to be the minimum at the moment, and for the course of a few months. So, and as you may or may not, as you may know, there'll be different skill sets available to us. There won't be experts at KubeStellar by any stretch of the Kubernetes, sorry, by any stretch of the imagination. But the idea is to grow their skill set, introduce them to technologies, and maybe get another perspective on what it is we're doing, such that it may make it easier for us to gain more adoption by making it easier for the regular pedestrian user to use our project. I think there's benefits to that. So just FYI, that should be coming in the months ahead. So just think about what kinds of projects you might want them to work on if given the opportunity. Okay, that's all I had, and I don't think I see anybody else's hands raised. So if not, I'll call it a meeting, and we'll reconvene in 2 more weeks. Thanks everybody for joining today.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you.